Hana Kim woke up in darkness. Her head throbbed with pain and her mouth tasted like metal. She tried to move her arms, but they were locked in place by cold restraints. Panic flooded through her body as memory slowly returned. The research station. The alarm. The massive ships descending from the sky, screaming. Then nothing. Light suddenly flooded the space, blinding her. She squeezed her eyes shut and heard voices around her. Not human voices. These were deeper, rougher, speaking in a language that sounded like grinding stones. When her eyes adjusted, Hana saw that she was inside a transparent pod. Around her were 11 other pods, each containing a different creature. Some she recognized from her xenobiology studies. Others were completely unknown to her. A massive figure stepped into view. It was humanoid but stood nearly 3 meters tall. Its skin was dark red, covered in thick plates that looked like armor. Its eyes were black and emotionless. When it spoke, a translator collar around its neck converted the words into something Hana could understand. "Welcome to Vralos Prime," the creature said. Its voice was cold and formal. "You have been selected for the Great Hunt. This is a tradition of the Velcron Empire that has existed for thousands of years. You are prey. You will be released into different zones of this planet. If you survive for 7 days, you will be granted your freedom." One of the other captives, a small furry being with 4 arms, began making desperate clicking sounds. The red creature ignored it completely. "You should know that in the 300 years we have conducted these hunts, only 5 individuals have ever survived. The predators on this world have been specially created for one purpose: to hunt and kill. They are perfect killers. You are not." The creature's mouth twisted into something that might have been a smile. "The hunt begins in 1 hour. May your deaths be entertaining." The creature left. The lights dimmed again. Around her, the other captives began making sounds of fear and despair. Hana forced herself to breathe slowly. Panic would not help her. She was a scientist. She needed to think. She studied the pod carefully. The restraints were automated, probably programmed to release at a specific time. There was no way to escape early. She looked at the other captives again. They were all clearly terrified, but Hana noticed something. Some of them had claws. Some had thick skin or shells. She had nothing. Humans were not built for survival on death worlds. They were weak, slow, and fragile compared to most species in the galaxy. But humans had one advantage that Hana clung to now. They were adaptable. They could think. They could learn. They could survive in ways that seemed impossible. The hour passed too quickly. Without warning, the restraints released. The transparent walls of the pods dissolved. Hana stumbled forward onto cold metal flooring. Around her, the other captives were also being released. Before any of them could speak or organize, the floor beneath them opened. Hana fell through darkness, wind screaming past her ears. She hit water hard, the impact knocking the breath from her lungs. She thrashed upward, breaking the surface and gasping for air. The water around her glowed with blue and green light. She was in some kind of swamp or marsh. Strange plants grew from the water, their leaves wide and covered in slime. She swam to the nearest solid ground and pulled herself up onto a thick root system. Her clothes were soaked and heavy. She looked around desperately but saw no sign of the other captives. They had all been dropped in different locations, just as the red creature had said. The jungle around her was alive with sounds. Clicking, chirping, growling, and noises she had never heard before. The plants glowed softly, providing enough light to see by even though there was no sun visible through the thick canopy above. Hana knew she needed to move. Staying in one place made her an easy target. She began walking, carefully testing each step before putting her full weight down. Some of the plants had thorns. Others secreted liquid that burned her skin when she accidentally brushed against them. She used her scientific training to observe and learn. Which plants were safe? Which areas looked like predator territory? Where could she find water that would not kill her? 3 days passed. Hana moved constantly, never sleeping for more than an hour at a time. She found fruit that was safe to eat after watching small creatures consume it without dying. She learned to recognize the signs of different predators and avoid their hunting grounds. She was exhausted, hungry, and covered in small cuts and bruises, but she was alive. On the 3rd night, everything changed. Hana was resting under a cluster of large leaves when she felt it. A presence. Something was watching her. She froze, her heart pounding so loud she was sure it could be heard across the entire jungle. She slowly turned her head and saw eyes in the darkness. They glowed amber like hot coals. They were large and positioned on the front of the skull, marking their owner as a predator. As Hana watched, the creature stepped forward into the dim light of the glowing plants. It was massive, at least 3 meters tall, standing on 2 powerful legs. Its body was covered in scales that looked black, but reflected purple when the light hit them. Its arms were long and muscular, ending in hands that had 4 fingers tipped with claws as long as knives. Its head was angular, with a jaw that could easily fit Hana's entire head inside. Rows of teeth lined its mouth. This was not a natural creature. This was something built, designed, perfected for killing. The creature moved closer. Hana knew she should run, but there was no point. This thing could catch her in seconds. She thought about her brother, about her friends, about all the things she would never get to do. She thought about dying alone on this horrible planet, just another piece of entertainment for the Velkrans. Then something strange happened. Instead of running, instead of begging, Hana stood up. She looked directly into those amber eyes. She saw intelligence there. This was not just an animal. This was a thinking being, trapped in the role of killer just as surely as she was trapped in the role of prey. "I see you," she said quietly. Her voice shook, but she kept speaking. "You are not just a monster. I know you can understand me. I know there is someone in there." The creature stopped. Its head tilted to one side. Its jaws were open, ready to strike, but it did not move. It stared at her with those burning eyes, and for a long moment nothing happened. Then slowly, very slowly, the creature closed its mouth. It took a step back, still watching her. Hana could barely breathe. Something had just changed between them, though she did not yet understand what. The creature did not leave. It remained at the edge of Hana's small shelter, watching her through the night. Every time she glanced up, those amber eyes were still there, reflecting the glow of the jungle plants. Hana forced herself to stay calm, though her heart raced with fear. She talked to it softly, explaining what she was doing as she checked her meager supplies and tended to her wounds. "I am a scientist," she said, keeping her voice steady. "I study living things. I try to understand them. You are the most interesting being I have ever seen." She showed it her injured arm, where thorns had left deep scratches. "These plants are dangerous, but you already know that, do you not?" The creature's head tilted again at her words. It made a low sound, somewhere between a growl and a rumble. Hana took that as acknowledgement. When dawn came, or what passed for dawn in this strange jungle, the creature was still there. It had not attacked. It had not killed her. That had to mean something. Hana slowly stood up and gathered her things. She needed to find water. The fruit she had been eating provided some moisture, but not enough. She began walking, and after a moment, she heard heavy footsteps behind her. The creature was following. She did not run. Running would trigger its hunting instincts. Instead, she walked calmly, speaking over her shoulder. "Are you coming with me?" "That is fine. I am going to find water. You are welcome to follow." The creature made that rumbling sound again. As Hana walked, she became aware that the normal sounds of the jungle had stopped. Other predators were fleeing. They could sense the apex predator moving through their territory. For the first time since arriving on this nightmare planet, Hana felt something other than constant terror. She felt protected. They walked for hours. When Hana grew tired, she rested. The creature would settle nearby, always watching but never approaching too close. When a serpent with venomous fangs dropped from a tree branch toward Hana, the creature moved faster than something so large should be able to move. It caught the serpent mid-air and crushed it instantly. Then it tossed the dead creature aside and returned to its position, as if nothing had happened. "Thank you," Hana said quietly. The creature's eyes focused on her with new intensity. She realized it was learning her language, understanding more with each word she spoke. By evening, they reached a clear stream. Hana tested the water carefully, using techniques she had learned during her training. It was clean, drinkable. She filled her makeshift containers and drank deeply. The creature watched her, then lowered its own massive head to drink from the stream. They shared the water in silence. That night, Hana made a decision. She had gathered some fruit during their walk. Now she carefully divided it, keeping half for herself and placing the other half on a flat rock near the creature. She stepped back and gestured to it. For you. I share my food with you. The creature looked at the fruit, then at Hana, then back at the fruit. Slowly, carefully, it reached out with one clawed hand and picked up a piece. It brought the fruit to its mouth and ate. Hana smiled. It was a small thing, but it mattered. They were not predator and prey anymore. They were something else. Over the next 2 days, their relationship deepened. Hana began to understand the creature's body language. When its dorsal scales rose slightly, it sensed danger. When it made a particular clicking sound, it wanted her to follow. When it nudged her gently with its snout, it was guiding her away from something harmful. She talked to it constantly, teaching it words and concepts. This is a tree. This is water. This is danger. You are my friend. My name is Hana. What is your name? The creature could not speak her language, not yet. But it made sounds, and Hana learned to interpret them. It had been called Apex 7 by its creators. But that was not a name. That was a designation. She wanted to give it a real name, but that would come later. First, she needed to understand what it truly was. One evening, as they rested, Hana noticed scars on the creature's body. They were not battle scars. They were too precise, too regular. She moved closer, studying them with her scientist's eye. The creature tensed but did not pull away. It trusted her. These are not natural, she said softly. Someone did this to you. These are from medical procedures, neural implants maybe, conditioning programs. Her voice grew angry. They hurt you. They changed you, made you into a weapon when you should have been free. The creature made a low, mournful sound. Hana reached out slowly and placed her hand on its scaled arm. The creature flinched, then relaxed. No one had touched it with gentleness before. Everything in its life had been pain and violence and commands to kill. I am sorry, Hana said. I am sorry for what they did to you. But you are more than what they made you. You proved that when you chose not to kill me. That night, Hana dreamed of her brother. Taiho had been only 16 when he died. Caught in the crossfire of a corporate war he had nothing to do with. He had been gentle and kind, loved animals and plants. After his death, Hana had vowed to never let another thinking being be reduced to a tool, to a thing without rights or dignity. That vow had led her to xenobiology, to studying alien life, to understanding rather than exploiting. She woke to find the creature's massive form curled protectively around her sleeping spot. It had positioned itself between her and every direction danger could come from. When it noticed she was awake, it made a soft questioning sound. She smiled and touched its arm again. Good morning, friend. But that morning brought new danger. The creature suddenly stood, its scales rising, a deep growl building in its chest. Hana scrambled to her feet. What is it? What do you sense? Then she heard them. Heavy footsteps. Not one set, but two. Through the jungle came two more creatures, similar to her protector but different. One had red markings on its scales. The other was slightly smaller but moved with terrifying speed. Their eyes held no intelligence, no hesitation. They were pure killing machines, exactly what her friend had been bred to be. Her protector stepped in front of Hana, positioning himself between her and the new threats. He roared, a sound so loud and terrifying that Hana felt it in her bones. It was a challenge, a warning. These were his territory, his human. They would have to go through him. The red-marked creature roared back. Then both of the new predators charged. Her protector met them head-on, and the jungle exploded into violence. Hana ran, not away but toward a cluster of rocks she had spotted earlier. She needed cover. She needed to think. As she ran, she heard the terrible sounds of the three creatures, fighting, claws on scales, teeth snapping, bodies crashing through trees. She reached the rocks and pressed herself into a small crevice. From there, she could see the battle. Her friend was powerful, but he was fighting two opponents. They were coordinated, trained to work together. He was already bleeding from several wounds. Hana felt helpless rage building inside her. She had no weapons. She had no way to help him. Then she saw it. Beyond the fighting, partially hidden by vines and undergrowth, was a structure. It was old, made of material that did not match the Velcron technology. It was from something else, something that had been here before. And where there were structures, there might be tools, there might be weapons. Hana made her decision. She ran. Hana sprinted toward the ancient structure, her lungs burning. Behind her, the sounds of combat continued, vicious and brutal. She could not think about whether her friend would survive. She had to focus on finding something, anything that could help. The structure's entrance was partially collapsed, but there was enough room for her to squeeze through. Inside, emergency lights flickered to life, responding to her presence. The walls were covered in symbols she did not recognize, but the technology looked functional despite its age. Hana moved quickly through corridors, searching. She found what looked like a control room. Screens activated as she entered, displaying information in an unknown language. But some things were universal. She recognized power readings, environmental controls, and security systems. Her hands flew over the interface, trying different combinations. She had always been good with technology, able to understand systems through logic and pattern recognition. One screen showed camera feeds from around the facility. Hana switched through them until she found the fight. Her friend was still standing, but barely. He had killed the red-marked creature, but the fast one was circling him, darting in to slash with its claws before retreating. Her friend was slowing down, losing blood, weakening. Hana screamed in frustration and slammed her hand on the console. As she did, her hand hit a sequence of buttons that activated something new. A new screen appeared, showing files and records. The language was different now, translated by the facility's systems into something she could read. She began scanning through the information, looking for anything useful. What she found made her blood run cold. These were records from the Velcron Empire, stolen or copied from their databases. They detailed the hunting preserve program, going back hundreds of years. Species abducted from their homeworlds, predators genetically engineered and mentally conditioned. The process used to create creatures like her friend. She found his file. Apex 7, created from genetic material taken from a species called the Draken, who had been hunted to extinction by the Velcrons, enhanced for size, strength, and aggression, subjected to neural conditioning that rewired his brain to crave hunting and killing. But the file also noted multiple failures. Apex 7 had shown inappropriate hesitation during training. He had been reconditioned 17 times. Each time he had resisted. Each time they had hurt him until he complied. Tears streamed down Hana's face as she read. They had tortured him, broken him, forced him to become a monster, and yet when he met her, some part of his original self had fought through all that conditioning. He had chosen mercy. He had chosen friendship. She wiped her eyes and kept searching. There had to be weapons here or defensive systems or something. Then she found it, a communications array. It was old but still functional. She could send a signal. Maybe someone would hear it. Maybe help would come. It was a desperate hope, but it was all she had. Hana activated the array and recorded a message, broadcasting it on every frequency the system could access. She gave her name, her species, the location of Verlos Prime, and what was happening here. Then she turned her attention back to the security systems. The facility had defensive turrets designed to protect against the planet's predators. They were in standby mode, their power cells nearly depleted. But there might be enough for a few shots. Hana activated them and directed their targeting systems toward the fight outside. On the screen, she watched the fast creature land another strike on her friend. He stumbled, went down on one knee. The enemy circled, preparing for the killing blow. Hana locked the turret onto the target and fired. The energy blast hit the fast creature square in its back. It shrieked and spun around, looking for the source of the attack. Hana fired again. This blast caught it in the side, burning through scales and flesh. The creature roared in pain and rage, then began running toward the facility. Toward her, Hana's hands shook as she fired a third time. The turret's power cell was almost empty. The blast hit the creature's leg, crippling it. It fell but continued crawling forward, driven by fury and pain. On another screen, Hana saw her friend struggling to his feet. He saw the wounded enemy approaching the facility, saw where the shots had come from. He understood. With a roar that echoed through the jungle, her friend charged. He caught the fast creature from behind, his jaws closing on its neck. There was a terrible crunching sound and the enemy went limp. Her friend held it for a moment longer, making sure it was dead, then let it drop. He limped toward the facility, leaving a trail of blood. Hana abandoned the control room and ran to meet him. She found him at the entrance, too large to fit through the gap she had used. He was breathing heavily, his amber eyes dim with pain and exhaustion. Deep wounds covered his body. "You are hurt," Hana said, her voice breaking. "You are hurt because you protected me." The creature made a soft sound and lowered his massive head until it was level with hers. Very gently, he nudged her with his snout. It was a gesture of affection, of trust. Hana wrapped her arms around his head, not caring about the blood or the scales or the fact that this being could kill her with a single bite. "I found things inside," she told him. "Medical supplies, I think. Let me help you. Please." She guided him to a wider entrance she had found, one large enough for him to squeeze through. Inside, she located a medical bay. The supplies were designed for species she did not recognize, but basic medicine was basic medicine. Antiseptics, bandages, coagulants to stop bleeding. She worked carefully, treating each wound while talking to him constantly, explaining what she was doing. "This will sting, but it will help. You are very brave. You saved my life twice now. I will not forget that. I will never forget." As she worked, she told him about Taiho, her brother. How he had died. How she had promised to never let others suffer as tools and weapons. "You are not a tool," she said firmly. "You are a person. You have a right to choose your own path, and you chose to protect me. That makes you the best person I have ever known." The creature rumbled softly. His eyes had regained some of their brightness. When Hana finished treating his wounds, he carefully placed one massive clawed hand on her shoulder. It was the first time he had deliberately touched her. The gesture was gentle, protective. Hana placed her small hand over his claws. They rested together in the facility that night. Hana learned more from the database. She found information about other hunting preserves, other captives, other conditioned predators. The Velcran Empire had built an entire industry on suffering. But she also found something that gave her hope. The communications array had successfully transmitted her message. Somewhere in the galaxy, someone might have heard it. As she sat reading, her friend slept nearby, his breathing deep and steady. Despite his wounds, he had positioned himself between her and the entrance. Always protecting, always watching over her. Hana felt something warm bloom in her chest. Not just gratitude, but genuine affection. This being, this person, had become important to her in a way she had not expected. She fell asleep with her back against his side, feeling safer than she had since this nightmare began. But safety was an illusion on Vralos Prime. High above, in an orbital station, Overseer Kryn watched his monitors with cold fury. Apex 7 had killed 2 valuable hunters. The human had accessed restricted databases and sent an unauthorized transmission. This could not be allowed to continue. Kryn activated his communication system and gave orders. Send a recovery team. Kill the defective predator. Capture the human for interrogation. And do it quickly, before that transmission causes problems. He smiled, showing teeth designed for tearing meat. The hunt was about to become much more interesting. Hana woke to her friend's urgent rumbling. His scales were raised, his body tense. She scrambled to her feet, instantly alert. "What is it? More predators?" The creature shook his head, a gesture he had learned from her. He moved to the facility entrance and pointed with one clawed hand toward the sky. Hana looked up and felt her stomach drop. Ships, 3 of them descending through the atmosphere toward their location. They were Velcran military craft, angular and menacing. "They are coming for us," Hana whispered. She ran back to the control room, her friend following as quickly as his wounds would allow. She pulled up the facility's sensors and confirmed what she feared. Armed Velcrans, at least 20 of them, heading directly toward the facility. They would arrive within minutes. Hana's mind raced. They could not fight that many. The facility's weapons were almost out of power. Her friend was wounded and tired. Running seemed like the only option, but where could they go? The Velcrans had ships. They could track them from orbit. Then her console beeped. An incoming transmission. Not from the Velcrans. From somewhere else. Hana's hand shook as she accepted it. A human face appeared on the screen. A woman with short dark hair and sharp eyes. "This is Lieutenant Jiwoo Park of the Terran defense vessel Resolute Dawn. We received your distress call. What is your situation?" Relief flooded through Hana so intensely she almost collapsed. "My name is Hana Kim. I am a prisoner on Vralos Prime. The Velcrans run a hunting preserve here. They are coming to kill me right now. Please, I need help. Jiwoo's expression hardened. We are in orbit now. We picked up the Velcran ships. Sending a team to your location immediately. Can you hold out for 10 minutes? I do not know, Hana said honestly. Behind her, her friend made a determined sound. She looked at him and saw resolve in his amber eyes. We will try. Good, stay alive, Hana Kim. Help is coming. The transmission ended. Hana turned to her friend. 10 minutes. We need to survive for 10 minutes. Can you fight? The creature growled softly and moved toward the entrance. Despite his wounds, despite his exhaustion, he would fight. Because she needed him to. Because he had chosen her over everything he had been programmed to be. Hana returned to the weapons console. The turrets had maybe 2 or 3 shots left. She would need to make them count. She activated the facility's blast doors, sealing the main entrance. It would not hold the Velcrons for long, but it might buy precious seconds. The first explosion came moments later. The Velcrons were using heavy weapons to breach the facility. Hana watched on the monitors as the blast door buckled under the assault. Her friend positioned himself in the corridor beyond, ready to meet them. Hana wanted to tell him to hide, to save himself, but she knew he would not listen. This was his choice. The blast door fell. Velcran soldiers poured through, weapons raised. They saw the massive predator waiting for them and hesitated for just a second. That second cost them. Hana's friend moved like flowing water, fast and deadly despite his injuries. His claws found throats and vital organs. His jaws crushed armor and bone. His tail swept soldiers off their feet, but there were too many. They began coordinating their fire, shooting from multiple angles. Energy blasts burned into his scales. He roared in pain but did not retreat. Could not retreat. If they got past him, they would reach Hana. Hana fired the turrets, taking out 2 soldiers who were flanking her friend. The weapons powered down, empty. She was out of options except one. She grabbed a piece of heavy equipment from a nearby workstation and ran toward the fight. A Velcran soldier saw her and raised its weapon. Before it could fire, Hana threw the equipment at its head. The impact stunned it long enough for her friend to strike, his claws ending the threat. More soldiers pushed forward. The corridor became a nightmare of blood and violence. Then new sounds joined the chaos. Human voices shouting tactical commands. Gunfire, different from the Velcran energy weapons. The cavalry had arrived. Hana saw human soldiers in combat armor pushing through the breach, engaging the Velcrons from behind. The enemy force found itself caught between 2 threats and their discipline broke. One human soldier, a woman with lieutenant stripes, fought her way to Hana's position. She saw the massive predator and immediately raised her rifle. Get away from that thing! No! Hana threw herself between the soldier and her friend. He is with me. He protected me. Lieutenant Jiwoo Park stared at her like she had lost her mind. Behind them, her friend finished off the last nearby Velcran soldier and turned to face the humans. He was breathing hard, bleeding from new wounds, but he stepped in front of Hana, protecting her. Always protecting her. Jiwoo's eyes widened. That creature just positioned itself between you and my soldiers. That is not standard predator behavior. He is not a standard predator, Hana said quickly. He is sentient. He chose to protect me instead of killing me. Please, you have to understand. He is a victim of the Velcrons too. They tortured him, conditioned him. But he broke free of their control. You cannot kill him. More human soldiers arrived, including an older man with commander's insignia. Commander Minho Choi assessed the situation with quick, calculating eyes. Lieutenant Park, report. Hostile Velcran force neutralized, sir. But we have a complication. The rescued scientist appears to have bonded with one of the hunting preserve's predators. Minho looked at Hana, then at her friend, then back at Hana. Dr. Kim, I presume. We have been searching for your research team for 6 weeks. We need to extract immediately. Velcran reinforcements are incoming. I will not leave without him. Hana said firmly. He has a right to freedom. He has earned it. That thing is 3 meters tall and probably weighs half a ton. We cannot transport it. Then I am staying. Minho's expression darkened. Jiwoo stepped forward. Sir, with respect, if that creature wanted to kill Dr. Kim, she would already be dead. It had days to do it. Instead, it fought off other predators to protect her. It just helped us fight the Velcrons. That demonstrates intelligence and choice. Another soldier interrupted. Commander, enemy dropships incoming. Multiple contacts. We need to move now, Minho cursed. He looked at Hana's friend again, studying the creature carefully.
Can it understand us?
He understands, Hana said. He learns quickly. Minho made a decision. Fine. But if that thing turns hostile, I will put it down myself. Clear? Hana nodded gratefully. She turned to her friend. We are leaving this planet. These humans will help us. Do you understand? You have to come with us. Trust me, please. The creature looked at her with those intelligent amber eyes. Then he made a sound that Hana had learned meant agreement. He lowered his body, making himself less threatening. The human soldiers tensed but did not fire. Let us move, Minho ordered. Defensive formation. The predator stays in the middle with Dr. Kim. They ran. The human soldiers formed a protective circle around Hana and her friend as they sprinted through the jungle toward the extraction point. Behind them, Hana heard the sounds of more Velcron ships landing. Energy blasts scorched the air near her head. One of the human soldiers was hit and went down. His squad mates dragged him along without stopping. The extraction shuttle was a beautiful sight, its ramp lowered and engines hot. The soldiers poured inside. Hana ran up the ramp with her friend close behind. The shuttle interior was designed for humans, too small for a creature his size. He had to curl his body awkwardly to fit. The ramp began closing. Through the gap, Hana saw Velcran soldiers emerging from the jungle. She saw Overseer Kryn himself, his distinctive crimson armor marking him as the facility commander. His black eyes met hers, filled with cold fury. Then the ramp sealed and the shuttle launched. The acceleration pushed everyone back. Hana's friend made a distressed sound, his first time experiencing spaceflight. She squeezed between soldiers to reach him, placing her hand on his arm. It is all right. We are safe now. We are going home. The shuttle shook as Velcran fighters pursued them, firing on their hull. Above, the Resolute Dawn provided covering fire, its weapons destroying the pursuing craft. The shuttle docked, and everyone rushed inside the larger vessel. Medical teams waited, immediately moving to help the wounded soldiers. A medic approached Hana's friend with a scanning device. The creature growled, scales rising. Wait, Hana said. Let me explain first. She knelt beside him, speaking softly. These people want to help you. They are healers. They will fix your injuries. I will be right here. I promise. Her friend looked at her for a long moment. Then he relaxed, allowing the medics to approach. As they worked, Hana stayed beside him, holding his clawed hand. Jiwoo watched from nearby, a thoughtful expression on her face. The medical bay of the Resolute Dawn was not designed for a creature of his size. The doctors had to work around him, using portable equipment and adapting their procedures. Hana refused to leave, guiding them through his alien physiology. She explained the neural implants, the genetic modifications, the conditioning scars. The medical team listened with growing horror. They tortured this being, one doctor said quietly. Some of these modifications would have required him to be conscious and aware during the procedures. The pain must have been incredible. Hana's jaw tightened. They wanted him to be afraid. Fear makes conditioning more effective. They broke him down and rebuilt him as a weapon. But he resisted, Jiwoo said from the doorway. She had been watching the entire time. He kept choosing to be something else. That takes extraordinary strength. Commander Minho entered the medical bay, his expression serious. Dr. Kim, we need to talk. The diplomatic situation is complicated. We rescued you from Velcran territory without authorization. That is technically an act of war. They were hunting sentience for sport, Hana said, her voice hard. They were torturing thinking beings. How is that not already an act of war? Because the galaxy has been ignoring it for centuries, Minho replied. The Velcrans are powerful. Most species do not want to challenge them. But your transmission changed things. It included data from that ancient facility, evidence of their hunting program. That data is spreading across communication networks. We cannot suppress it even if we wanted to. Hana felt a flicker of hope. So people know? They know what the Velcrans have been doing? They know, and many are angry. But the Velcrans are demanding your return along with their property. Minho glanced at her friend. They claim he is a legally owned combat asset. They want him back. No. Hana stood up, her small frame rigid with determination. He is not property. He is a person. He has rights. I agree with you, Doctor. But that puts us in a difficult position. We need to prove he is sentient, that he can make his own choices. Otherwise, interstellar law is on the Velcran side. Over the next 3 days, as the Resolute Dawn traveled toward human-controlled space, Hana worked tirelessly. She documented everything about her friend, His behaviors, his intelligence, his capacity for emotion and choice. She taught him more human words and concepts. He learned with startling speed, his mind eager to understand. The human crew was initially terrified of him. But as they watched him interact with Hana, their fear turned to fascination. They saw how gentle he was with her despite his size and power. They saw him learn, solve problems, and express emotions. Slowly they began to see what Hana had seen from the beginning. He was not a monster. He was a person trapped in a monster's body. Jiwoo became an unexpected ally. She spent hours with them, learning from Hana and teaching the creature about human culture and values. "He needs a real name," she said one evening. "Not a designation. A name that reflects who he is, not what they made him to be." Hana had been thinking about this. "In my language there is a name, Deho. It means great goodness. He was created to be evil, but he chose goodness instead. That is who he is." When she said the name, the creature's eyes brightened. He repeated it in his rumbling voice, testing the sound. Deho. It was rough and accented, but unmistakably the name. He had accepted it. He had accepted himself as someone beyond what the Velcrans had tried to make him. The Resolute Dawn arrived at Unity Station, the largest diplomatic facility in human space. The station was in chaos. Representatives from dozens of species had gathered, all debating what to do about the Velcran hunting preserve revelation. Some wanted immediate action. Others urged caution. The Velcrans themselves had sent ambassadors, denying everything and demanding justice for their destroyed facility and stolen property. Hana was brought before the Galactic Council, the body that theoretically governed interspecies relations. Deho was not allowed in the chamber, deemed too dangerous, Hana argued, but Minho convinced her to cooperate. "Let them see you first. Show them the evidence. Then we bring him in." The council chamber was vast, with representatives from 20 different species. Hana stood at the center, feeling small and insignificant. But when she spoke, her voice was strong and clear. She told them everything. Her capture, the hunt, her first meeting with Deho, his choice to protect her instead of killing her. She showed them medical scans proving his intelligence, video evidence of his learning and problem-solving. She presented the data from the ancient facility, records of centuries of abuse and torture. "The Velcrans say he is property," Hana concluded. "But property does not make choices. Property does not learn and grow. Property does not choose mercy over violence. Deho is a person. He deserves the same rights as any being in this chamber." The Velcran ambassador stood, his crimson armor gleaming. "This is propaganda. The creature is a weapon, nothing more. It was designed, created, and owned by the Velcran Empire. Its theft is a crime." "Then let him testify," Hana challenged. "Let the council see him and judge for themselves." Silence fell. Several council members exchanged glances. Finally, the council leader, an ancient being from a silicon-based species, spoke. "Very well. Bring the creature in, but under guard. If it shows aggression, it will be destroyed." Guards escorted Deho into the chamber. He had to walk on all fours to fit through the entrance, but once inside, he stood to his full height. Gasps echoed through the room. He was magnificent and terrifying, every inch the apex predator he had been designed to be. But then he saw Hana. His aggressive posture softened. He walked to her side and gently placed his clawed hand on her shoulder, the gesture protective and affectionate. Hana reached up and held his hand. "Deho," she said clearly, "tell the council why you are here." His voice was rough and difficult, each word a struggle, but he had practiced for this moment. "I am here because Hana, she saw me, not weapon, person. I choose protect, choose good, not what they made." The chamber erupted in argument. Some council members were convinced. Others demanded more proof. The Velcran ambassador was furious, calling it tricks and conditioning. But Hana noticed several representatives watching Deho with new eyes, seeing what she saw. Over the next weeks, the debate continued. But public opinion was shifting. Citizens across the galaxy had seen the evidence, heard Deho's testimony. They were outraged at what the Velcrans had done. Protests erupted on multiple worlds. Economic pressure mounted. Finally, the Galactic Council reached a decision. The Velcran hunting preserves would be shut down. All conditioned predators would be evaluated for sentience and offered rehabilitation. Those who chose could return to peaceful lives. The Velcrans would face sanctions and reparations, and Deho would be granted full legal personhood, free to choose his own path. When Hana heard the news, she cried, not from sadness but from overwhelming relief. She found Deho in the observation room where he often watched the stars. He had learned to love the view, this being who had known only jungles and cages. "You are free," she told him, her voice thick with emotion. "Truly free. You can go anywhere, do anything. You can find others like you. Maybe even find your original species' homeworld. You can have a life." Daiho looked at her with those amber eyes that had once promised death, but now held only warmth. He knelt down so they were eye level. "What you do?" he asked. "Me? I am going back to work. Back to studying living beings, helping them. There are hundreds of conditioned predators who will need help learning to be free. I want to help them." Daiho rumbled softly. Then he said, carefully pronouncing each word, "I go with you. Where you go, I go. You, my person, my family." Hana hugged him, her small arms barely reaching around his massive neck. "You are my family too. You are the bravest person I have ever known." 6 months later, Hana stood in a rehabilitation center on a peaceful world called Haven. Around her, dozens of former predators worked with therapists and teachers, learning to overcome their conditioning and discover who they truly were. Some struggled. Some thrived. All were free. Deho had become her assistant, helping the newer arrivals adjust. His presence calmed them. If he could break his conditioning and find peace, so could they. He had learned to speak fluently now, though his voice remained rough. He wore a translator collar that helped when his pronunciation failed. Jiwoo visited often. She had become a close friend, fascinated by the rehabilitation work. "You started something incredible," she told Hana one day. "The whole galaxy is changing because you refuse to accept cruelty as normal." Hana shook her head. "I just recognized a person when I saw one. Daiho did the rest. He chose to be more than what they made him." That evening, as the binary suns of Haven set in brilliant colors, Hana and Daiho walked through the center's gardens. Other former predators greeted them as they passed. Some were learning to garden, nurturing life instead of taking it. Others were studying art, science, or philosophy. Each one was discovering their own path. They reached a memorial that had been built for those who had not survived, who had died still trapped in the Velcran conditioning. Deho placed his hand on the monument, his expression sad. "I remember them," he said quietly. "They wanted to be free. Could not. Free. For them, too." Hana took his other hand. "You honor them by living well, by being who you choose to be." He looked down at her, this small human who had seen him when no one else would. "You teach me person, not what others make. Person is choices. I choose, I good, choose, I protect, I choose, I you." "And I choose you," Hana said, "always." They stood together as the sun set, the predator who was supposed to devour her and the human who had seen his soul. Two beings who should have been enemies, now inseparable. Their story had changed the galaxy, but more importantly, it had changed them both. Hana had learned that courage sometimes means seeing what others refuse to see, and Deho had learned that being a person means having the freedom to choose who you become. Together, they had proven that kindness could triumph over cruelty, that choice could overcome conditioning, and that family was not about biology, but about the bonds we choose to forge. The predator was supposed to devour her. Instead, he guarded her with his life, and in doing so, he found his own.